lock in that Zeri. And I like this from EDG looking at the Nautilus, right? I think the big thing with Zeri is if you have skill shots, it can be difficult to land. Nautilus is the anti-fun mechanic. You just press R. HEcarim as well. Very hard to avoid the CC. So instantly EDG are aware of the Zeri. They pick strong tools to deal with it. And now for the side of LGD, I feel like jungle support is probably where the direction you might go in this situation. We'll see what they opt to pick up in here. Could just be something like the Leona. We often see into the Nautilus as a sort of trade in terms of matchups. But actually, Shadow going to go for the Diana. So I expect to be going down here. You might end up picking a Soul Laner. But you often see the Renekton paired with it quite effectively. So something we talked about earlier, Shadow definitely looking to be that carry for this team.
And we are absolutely flying through this draft right now. Already onto that final pick for the first phase here for EDG. As you say, that AD solo laner with the Diana and Gnar. I mean, if you think back to last year, 2021, Gnar versus Renekton, it feels like we've gone back in time here. Especially with the Diana jungle locked in and a HEcarim. Like, aside from the Zeri, this is just a 2021 draft.
Literally. And I think that's a big thing to note is that the Gnar has made a big resurgence in 12.4. Really strong with Hullbreaker, but also the sort of bruiser itemization changes. He has really managed to sort of avoid struggling too much with them. And now for EDG, I feel like in this situation, that Leona we talked about before, you can just ban that one away. For LGD, I'm looking at 80 carries, right? Jinx is definitely one. Aphelios is another. Those are like the two big ones we see. But actually going to target the Tristana. And this is specifically something we've seen picked into the Zeri, right? You just jump on ahead, you stack up your bomb, you just blow up. There isn't really much counterplay. So LGD more concerned about the specific lane matchups. I would like to probably see either that Jinx or Aphelios banned away as this the second ban for them.
So I do just want to sprinkle a little something a little spicy here in the conversation. That's that Renata currently not been banned out. Karma was banned, which is not necessarily a ban I was expecting, but you know, it's sort of a similar style of support. Maybe there could be some shenanigans coming from LGD. I don't want to get my hopes up too much. I don't want to get too excited, but it is available. It is playable right now on the patch. So we'll see if any shenanigans do occur. It will be Jinx banned though. It's the final one coming out from LGD.
Yeah, and I think in this situation, you can just pick up AD carry. They are actually going to go for the Kaisa. So again, something that can, you know, you Nautilus ult the Zeri. The Kaisa dives in. You have that sort of assassin tendency to burst it out. So I kind of like what EDG have in terms of dealing with the Zeri. The LGD, kind of looking at them to wrap up their composition. Could see something with Wild come out in terms of things like the Yasuo, but actually looking towards the Ahri. And again, 12.4, we've seen the Ahri get the mini rework and incredibly powerful in the current patch. Really good at just facilitating setup for your team. And now if you look at Shadow's matchups, right, you have point and click CC top, you have a charm in the mid lane to set you up. Really strong facilitation for that Diana.
Oh, he's teasing me. Come on, JinJiao. Go back for it. Go for the Renata. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Yep, the Ahri going to be there. And we could have another one of her kin with that Rakan being hovered right now. Certainly would be a good engage tool. And, I mean, let's be honest. Look at this composition from LGD with a Rakan there. They have so much all-in at their fingertips.
Yeah, it's pretty much just all dive all the time. Very much go in. And it's kind of cool because on the other side for EDG, it's kind of the same, right? Both comps are looking just to charge forwards. We will see the Vex come out. I like this in the Ahri. It's the fact that you have essentially an impossible to dodge CC when you do get in range of her with that fear. Not much you can do to outplay that, but also this is such a dive heavy composition for EDG. Both sides very much looking for that all in, and I do feel like EDG have some great tools to deal with the Zeri, which is kind of LGD's late game insurance. So I think LGD, I need to see them find a little bit of early momentum, particularly around Shadow, so that he's like that other force to be reckoned with, right? Because if you're being forced to deal with the threat of the Diana, it leaves less tools available for that Zeri and allows a little bit more freedom.
Certainly does, but our two compositions are locked in. So, Aux, I want to hear initial thoughts here. How are we feeling about the two comps? Has either side won the draft? That's a question I don't usually like to ask, but I'm curious on your take here.
I don't think either team has sort of outright won the draft. I think both teams have some solid tools. I do feel like LGD, I'm a little bit concerned about the Zeri's freedom in team fights. I also feel like the Renekton Diana is something you want to snowball with, right? Especially if the Renekton does end up falling behind, he becomes fairly, you know, irrelevant sooner rather than later. So I think LGD want to come out running, but I think both teams have great tools to play around with, right? And I think what's really amazing here is that regardless of which team is ahead, sometimes you get these compositions where it's like, okay, enemy team's ahead, we kind of just watch them. But here, like, we will constantly see engages happen. If one team falls behind, their win con to get back into the game is look for someone isolated and just engage.
I'm also just excited to see Viper playing on the Kaisa. It's such an insanely high skill cap champion. We get to see one of the very best AD carries in the entire world playing that one alongside Meiko. And you mentioned before we got into this draft that the EDG bottom lane, they've been going ham in the 2v2. Zeri, notoriously a little bit weak in the early stages of the laning phase, so perhaps a window of opportunity for EDG to make something happen. But already you can see on your screen, there is a big old cluster of players making their way across the map. Aux, we could have some level 1 shenanigans coming our way.
I always hope for level 1 shenanigans, in all honesty. Always makes a lot of fun. Looks like we're not going to see too much yet. But I think a big thing is we can kind of look at sort of what the plan might be for these teams. So both junglers do spike pretty hard at 6. Not really the highest agency before them compared to, like, you know, your typical Xin Zhao's, your Jarvans, your Lee Sins. But in terms of where they want to sort of apply that pressure, with Shadow, it's the top side, right? We talked about the Renekton Diana combo. You have that point and click stun to set up the Diana. Also, mid lane, pretty solid if you're able to land the charm. Whereas on the other side, what we did talk about is EDG's bot lane. They've been so heavy on establishing control in this lane and trying to find pressure, often playing things like that Ezreal Karma, Caitlyn Karma we've seen as well. So I expect to see Jiejie leaning towards that side of the map and particularly looking to punish Eric and JinJiao.
Scout is not messing about in this early laning phase, but Jade trading back pretty effectively. The Foxfire doing a good job, actually. So a much more even trade than I expected. Now in the mid lane, in the bot lane, sorry, Eric in trouble. Ignite is there. Meiko flashes forward. And already first blood for EDG. They do not give a monkeys. They want to win lane.
Yeah, zero hesitation at all. It was actually a beautiful dredge line coming out for Meiko, and then Viper flashing over the Rakan's W. And this is one of the things with Rakan, right, is that in the laning phase, he doesn't have as much presence as other supports. His W very telegraphed, very easy to flash. And once that was used, what else do you really have? You can see the replay that comes out. So Meiko finding a great window just basically round the minions. And then, yeah, JinJiao does what he can, right? You W in. What other option do you have really available? I guess you could have held the W a bit longer. That maybe could have made a difference. But either way, beautiful engage from EDG and already doing what we expect from them, establishing control in the lane.
And the crazy thing is, like, we were talking about, this is a bot lane that likes to be aggressive in the 2v2. I didn't expect it at level 1. I expected them at least to wait for the level 2 spike, you know? Like, yeah, LGD, not ready at all, yeah.
Yeah, Eric for sure did not expect it either. Now, Xiang Jin, you know, he won't actually be able to do much to Shadow in this situation, but finding out where he is, having that information, also means he very much should be prepared for any plays towards the top side. We did speak about how the Renekton very much has a lot of setup for the Diana. So, and Fearness are actually in trouble.
Is in big trouble, yeah. Flash available still. Xiaosheng playing that one safe. He does know that Shadow is nearby, so can't go too aggressive there. But honestly, I feel like maybe could have got a little bit more aggressive on the play. But on the top side, Shadow gets that. Scuttle Crab. Jiejie will match that down on the bottom side of the map. Jiejie has a lot of freedom on this bottom side of the map, considering how the bottom lane has been going so far this game. But Shadow, he's toying with the idea of a dive. Looks like he is just going to go for a reset here. Just shadowing to make sure that Fearness can get this wave in. But Meiko's going for this one once again. Viper with the Hail of Blades. There's a W in. Jiejie just going to gallop across the lane and leave out the way he came.
Yeah, hard to gank the Rakan when he's the target and committing to. JinJiao still had flash available, still had his W to make sort of get away from the situation. But similarly, on the top side, we don't see the play being successful for LGD. There was a big stack wave, but Xiaosheng was very close to Mega. And critically, you know, we talked about him going more aggressive before. He didn't. Made sure that he was still pretty healthy, and then as a result, just wasn't a viable dive target. Now, if you look at the wave in the bot side,
Fearness in big trouble once again. Xiaosheng having an amazing time on this top lane right now. That's 2 near plays coming out from him. Fearness did still have flash available, but regardless, fantastic start to the lane for him. See Jiejie moving up. Scout on the way as well. Aux, I think we've got a dive on our hands. Fearness knows what's up, though. Drops a ward in the tri-brush, and he is backing all the way off. LGD right now, very pleased that they got that early scuttle crab. Jay doesn't know that he's been flanked by Scout right here in this play from the EDG 2v2. That is gorgeous.
And there's a little ward you can see there just near his mid lane tower that spotted him out in the roam. So great play from EDG. They have the vision of the Ahri moving. They then loop round, and despite not having vision of his exact position, they knew roughly where he was, and they're able to collapse. Great execution. And you know, despite the fact that they did manage to get the dive up top, it still forced Fearness away into a bit of an uncomfortable position. Really solid play from EDG. And on the other side of the map, we saw Viper and Meiko being very, very patient, right? They knew Shadow was going to be on the bot side. Shadow was, well, shadowing, right? Making sure that his bot lane could crash the wave safely. And as a result, we saw them temper their aggression and wait for an opportunity. Now, Scout level 6. This is an easy dive.
Yeah, Fearness just TP'd back in, but Shadow is here. Shadow's still level 5 right now. Jiejie holding the wave. There's the stun. Shadow Surge is going to land. And that's Fearness gone, but it's a 1-for-1 so far. And Jay coming in from this side, only level 5 right now. Flashes and whiffs the charm, and that might just be the end of the play, because without ultis, I don't think there's a way LGD can extend this one. But Jay now hitting level 6 himself, jumps on forward, the Ignite is there, and Scout burned to a crisp.
A little bit of an overstay from ADG, right? They go for the play on the top side while Shadow is on the other side of the map, but they stay for an extended period of time. They do set up the dive, but they use a lot to end up taking out Fearness, and as a result, Jay able to capitalize, Shadow able to chase down, and they're able to answer the play overall. You can see here there's very little the Renekton can do. Level 5, slammed in the wall, but that's ult from both the Gnar and the Vex, and obviously Hershang is tanking. No way he gets out of that situation.
Yeah, really nicely done. And crucially, Fearness not actually having an opportunity to use the flash there, which could benefit him in the long run, because it means that he will still have his flash available if EDG do choose to focus on this top side even further. In the meantime, Viper and Meiko getting some tower plates for themselves. 1,000 gold lead in that bottom lane so far, because look at the CS difference. 20 CS up for Viper, as well as that turret plate. He is rocketing ahead of the competition right now. When you look across the board, similar story, as we've got another hook in this bottom lane, and JinJiao has a grand entrance on out of there. Will survive, but barely.
Definitely still showing how much threat there is in this bot lane 2v2, and Eric, as you said, substantially behind already in this matchup, and it feels like EDG just haven't really given them any room to breathe, constantly threatening, constantly looking for opportunities, and they are going to hit that level 6 point soon. The strength of the 2v2 really spikes for the Kaisa and the Nautilus when you hit that point. And the thing is as well, for Eric, right, has the cleanse. It doesn't actually offer that much of the 2v2, right? It's very good against Vex. It's very good against the HEcarim, right, who both have CC that you can use it against. But it offers very little against the Nautilus, because if he hooks you and then he pops his ultimate, cleanse will really offer nothing.
Yeah, it's a really tough one to try and cleanse your way. I think maybe locking it in for the fear coming out from Scout later on, or I'm not entirely sure, but either way, see if it's going to work out for Eric later on. 0-1-0 so far. Both teams now posturing for the Herald. EDG, they're the ones in the right place at the right time, but a charm sets it up nicely. Meiko survives, though. There's a Mega Gnar, but no stun. Doesn't matter, though, because the Herald is the target right here. Fearness coming in on the flank. They need to burn this right now, but Meiko goes in for the fight. There's a Shadow Surge forward. Meiko will go down, but it's 1-for-1 so far, and Fearness now being chased away. Eric arrives on the scene, gets his ulti off, and starts building charges. LGD, we said the early skirmishes is where they thrive, and thrive they shall, as EDG are sent running to the hills, and Xiaoshang might not be able to make it to the tower. Jay goes forward. Xiaoshang hops over the minions, though, and will walk away.
And the critical thing, right, is we talked about all these tools that EDG had to deal with the Zeri. They burnt them all before the Zeri even arrives. And as much as this is an early Zeri, not super threatening, still able to chase down very effectively, still able to stack up those overcharge in this fight. And you see what ends up coming out, right? The engage comes in. They commit quite a lot of resources here, basically just to take out, well, firstly the ult from the Gnar comes in, and then it's a lot committed in the start of this fight, right? ult from the HEcarim, ult from the Vex as well. And it's only now that Eric slides in, joins the fight, and they don't have any tools left for Zeri, so just able to free hit basically in this situation.
Really nicely done. And I'm loving watching Jay on this Ahri as well. He has had 1 or 2 whiffs on the skill shots, but aside from that, positioning fantastic, using the ultimate to great effect as well. Exciting to watch so far this game, but Herald now down to the bottom side as EDG try and bite off a little bit more gold for themselves. Viper will be close enough to get some of those tower plates for himself once again. That means that he is still maintaining that lead despite Eric having a great little team fight there. Viper still 1,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, and if you look at the team goal difference, it's basically all the difference between AD carries. So definitely still ADG doing what they want to in terms of this bot lane 2v2. But I have to say that fight being lost for them, a little bit uncomfortable. It is fortunate they got the Herald though and are able to capitalize on it, so not too much of a hit. The team's looking towards this dragon now. Remember, this is 10 minutes, nearly 11 minutes in the game. Quite a late first dragon here, but I think LGD should just be able to pick this one up fairly freely.
Yeah. So I want to revisit the compositions a little bit here because we're 5-5 on the scoreboard. 11 minutes into the game is this Drake. First one of the game will go the way of LGD, sorry. I kind of want to talk about the identity of Ahri and how she's going to fit in the game because I think a lot of viewers at home may not have seen Ahri in competitive just yet since the rework. So talk to me about scaling. Talk to me about when we should see Jay really having his biggest influence.
Yeah, Ahri doesn't scale exceptionally simply because of the fact that her damage isn't super relevant in the later stages, right? And it gets to the point where people can pick up itemization to deal with the charms, whether it's Merc Treads or like a QSS for Viper later. But a mid-game is so powerful, right? The charm setup, really effective. You can fish for picks. And her ults, right? The way it works now, for those who aren't familiar, you obviously get the 3 charges when you first pop it. But if you get a takedown, then you actually get an extra charge and you can just extend it over the course of the fight. So very momentum based, right? And if you look at LGD's composition, if they get a big engage, you can dive in with them, land a charm, lay the CC, burst a target, and then you get the resets to allow you to continue the chase as we saw in the last one. So despite the fact she's not the best scaling champion, definitely holds up well in team fights. And you are going up against a Vex. It's not like you're going up against something like an Orion or a Victor who really have exceptional scaling. So I think Jay is going to be pretty comfortable in this one.
And it feels like kind of the perfect champion for LGD, right? We've talked about how this team loves to scrap. That's how they managed to get their win against IG. That's how this team has kind of lived and died in their series. And it feels like Ahri kind of fits in within that more skirmish heavy as opposed to team fight style that LGD are bringing to the table. We'll see if that's going to work up against EDG, who, in their most recent series against Top Esports, couple of issues in the team fight, certainly in game number 3, but I don't know if we could draw necessarily huge conclusions on the team from that one series itself. Still, yeah, 1,500 gold lead right now in favor of EDG. Does feel like, honestly, so far the lead is just lane differences, right? EDG are just real good at laning, real good at the 2v2. Xiaoshang having a great job in the 1v1 up top as well, getting himself a whole bunch of tower plates. Feels like that's the significant difference in this game so far.
Yeah, and it is going to be a little bit problematic having Viper being strong, being fed, but at the same time, you will see the Zeri ramp up pretty significantly. Already has that Triforce in pocket, and this champion does scale exceptionally into the late stages of the game, especially if we end up having longer fights. The overcharge can stack so heavily. Oh, JinJiao lucky.
Xiaoshang, that's a great engage. Gets 2 with the knockup, but that's kind of it. Now Shadow goes in for a little bit more. Big ulti in. Viper exhausted and taken down. And LGD, a beautiful little set piece coming out from them in the bottom lane. EDG want to answer up top, though, as Jiejie is here, but I don't know if this is diveable necessarily. I guess we'll find out. Gnar about to time out. It's too little too late. Wallop is there, now diving under the tower. Xiaoshang tanking. Fearness gets the heal. Jiejie now tanking, and Fearness in the 2v1.
And as you said, the Gnar times out. That's a significant thing, right? They don't have the extra tools. They don't have the bulkiness that the Gnar offers, the extra damage. And so they aren't able to quickly win, take out Fearness. Great as well, the healing he managed to get from that empowered Q just before he went down. And then as a result, LGD managed to trade on the other side, get that first tower, get a ton of gold for Eric and Shadow. Super significant.
Really good stuff coming out from LGD, finding themselves a positive trade across the map, taking the bounty onto Viper as well. And I love this from JinJiao, the decisiveness of just going for this play on the flash.
Yeah, super heavy commit. And Viper, you know, he could have flashed the ult initially, but didn't expect this heavy chase. The ult from Shadow as well interrupts his dash. They're able to chase him down. And now, if you actually look, we talked about Viper having this significant lead. Eric is now ahead in gold compared to the Kaisa. That's pretty scary to see, pretty scary to go up against, because I feel like this Zeri is such a relevant piece of LGD's late stage of the game, right? It is the driving force in the late game team fight. If you have Eric popping off, it's going to be hard for EDG to win.
This is a really exciting mid-game now in favor of either team, because you've got the bottom lane advantage for LGD, jungle advantage for LGD, but both solo laners ahead for EDG at this stage in the game, and Jiejie starting this Herald off. LGD trying to get into position, but look at Fearness on the minimap. Miles away, now going to commit the teleport to join in the play. Either Herald available here, and Jiejie gets the smite. So, Herald in favor, but Shadow with the 3-man ulti. Gnar into the pit, though. In the meantime, LGD trying to find a way to start this scrap up, but Shadow's already gone down. Scout's in the back line, and he is shredding health bars one by one, finishing them off. EDG, they just make it look easy.
5-0 in that team fight. They absolutely crush it. And credit to Scout, right? We talked about the freedom of this Zeri. If Zeri is unchecked, it's likely going to be a win for LGD. Well, let's just say Eric got checked very quickly by the Vex on the other side.
Full-on body checked by Scout as he just flies into the back line. And with a Herald coming down that mid lane as well. That's 2 towers off the back of the play, plus that Drake that just spawned onto the map will go into the pocket of EDG as well. So we were just saying how close these two teams were going into that fight. And yet, EDG now with an almost 5,000 gold.
And it's a good engage from Shadow coming out, but look at this ult that comes out from Xiaoshang. Actually just means that Jay and Eric can't really do anything to follow up the engage. And as soon as they do start to rejoin the fight, Scout flies straight in, gets the double fear, kills the Zeri, then follows up on the Ahri. So I got to credit the solo laners here for EDG. Beautiful job there just to disrupt the backline of LGD and honestly not even let them play the game.
Yeah, beautifully done by Xiaoshang. And you can see why EDG are starting to favor having Xiaoshang in the lineup, as Jay is getting a little cheeky with it. Moves into the Tri-Brush here. The rest of his squad nearby. Jiejie is going to get caught out by himself. JinJiao not going to commit the quickness. I thought they were going to pull the trigger. I feel like with the 2 Vestians there, but JinJiao actually quickness was on cooldown. So yeah, it would have been difficult to make that one happen.
I think the problem as well, since we have that lockout, right, it's half a second between the quickness and then being able to use your W. It's so hard to ever pick a HEcarim because he just ults, right? He sees you use your ult, then he can basically just buffer his ult to dodge the CC. So, you know, there's definitely pick targets on EDG, and I like the fact LGD are fishing, but HEcarim, almost certainly not the target you want to find, especially as he is going that tank HEcarim build, will be very bulky and difficult to take down.
I want to take a second here. If I have it, I don't have it. Jiejie coming down into the bottom side. Jay hit by the bit of a headbutt there from Jiejie. Shadow is being real sneaky right now. I mean, living up to his name, that is for sure. He's in the shadows of the alcove. Scout has no idea. He lacks critical information right now. Like to move over as well. EDG committing 4 people to this bottom side right now. They want this tier 1 tower real bad, and LGD knows it. Shadow behind enemy lines. This is an opportunity as Meiko goes under the tower. TP being channeled, but Shadow's too late to the play. His teammates are already falling. Gets an ulti on in, but it just doesn't matter as the Gnar comes through. Shadow late to the play that he was setting up.
Yeah, and we get a triple kill for the Gnar, and that's the critical thing. Look at Fearness, no TP available. They bring in Xiaoshang, and critically, at a moment when he has Mega Gnar, perfect time to be shown up to that fight, and they absolutely crush them. Jay, flash and ult unused, because he just got CC'd, got locked down, bursted, and now EDG a 7,000, nearly 8,000 gold lead. This game has really just gotten out of control very quickly for LGD.
Yeah, this is getting brutal at this stage. And I want to highlight that lead that we've got in that top side. Xiaoshang. And it's not just in terms of a 1v1 lead, right? It's influencing the rest of the game. Great hook coming out from Meiko. And clearly LGD just had no idea EDG could pull the trigger this hard.
Yeah, they honestly felt like they could be in a favorable situation with the flank coming out from Shadow. But the TP advantage is massive. And also the confidence to go for these engages. We kind of talked about it going into this game, right? Both teams, so many engage tools, so much dive threat. EDG are just factoring that in so well and being very effective at utilizing those tools, not giving Jay any chance to even press his buttons. in this situation. And now you look at the items coming through, right? Scout has that huge pen combo where you have the Ludens, you have the Shadow Flame, and the Sork Shoes, so doing an insane amount of damage. We're seeing Viper go for that sort of AP hybrid build as the Nash's Tooth, so the W's are really going to hurt, and you obviously get that cooldown reset if you connect them. So again, really solid in those dive situations.
Yeah, I hate this Kaisa build. It's so horrible to play against. The W's do mental damage. And EDG, with vision control of this top side, they're just going to stop Baron. Okay, they realized there was a ward. They were a little too overzealous on it. And they are going to peel away immediately. But I want to return to our conversation of the top laners, right? Xiaoshang is here, subbing in for Flandre. That is a big pair of shoes to fill. Flandre, notorious for the size of his feet, apparently. But Xiaoshang is having an amazing series here. Did a great job against top esports as well. 6-1 and 6 on this Gnar. Had a great time during the laning phase. Has a CS lead, but also during these fights, right? Always in the right place at the right time. We saw him intercept during the Herald fight, then the dive down in the bottom lane as well. Beautiful stuff. And now EDG, off the back of this massive lead that they found across the map, they're just going to go for this Baron. It's so low already, 3k, but they peel off. They're looking for the fight right now. Scout behind it, he realizes, flashes for the fear, and Jay is gone. EDG just starting things off so beautifully. The speed at which they pulled the trigger, LGD are just not ready for it.
Beautiful setup, though. I love the Scout found that pocket of vision behind LGD for the engage. And honestly, I feel so bad for Jay, right? Coming on the new patch, you're like, guys, Ahri is broken, so good. He's not even getting to play Ahri. His ult and flash, once again, dying with them available just because he gets instantly CC'd and they don't even give him a chance to play as champion. It's so sad.
You know, the hilarious thing is, Shadow was just trying to make that play in the bottom side, hiding in the alcove. And then Scout is like, oh, your name is Shadow? Well, my champion is the Shadow, okay? And jumps into that pocket of vision, manages to make the sneaky play happen. You love to see it. Scout, an amazing job on this Vex. And it's a champion that I think we're finally starting to see players really utilize to great effect.
Yeah, and here, the flash W. And I guess you can definitely say, you know, Jay could have seen that coming, could have tried to flash, could have tried to ult. But if you don't make the prediction, it's already too late. And as soon as the CC comes in, Viper's there to dive. Full dive buddies on this one. Instantly bursts out the Ahri. And as soon as they kind of lose the Ahri at the start of that fight, there's also the disruption for the rest of the team. It just kind of felt like there was no chance for LGD coming in, especially with their gold deficit. Now, 10,000 gold behind. They did pick up that dragon, and they did get an objective bounty. That is a very, very small consolation prize in this situation. Now, EDG, with that Baron, going to start pushing in. You can see Viper has now fully stacked that Murn mana as well. They've got a lot of poke behind this Kaisa. You can see the W's flying out at Jay. Pretty painful.
It's a minuscule consolation prize what LGD were able to get at this point. 10 stack Medjais now for Scout, and I want to revisit. We talked about LGD later on in the game not going to do so hot. Well, the 10,000 gold down. This Ahri has ceased to function for them. This is not going to work out anymore as EDG now, one of the smartest teams in the entire league. They've got Baron to work with. Their macro is already great. You just know that over the next minute and 20 seconds, they are going to put so much pressure onto LGD.
And the problem is now in this situation, right, is that we talked about the Zeri being that main pivotal late game insurance for LGD. The Zeri only really functions... Oh, seen engage.
The Scout may be in a bit of trouble, or maybe not, as he just one-shots JinJiao. And, well, we said there was going to be pressure coming out from EDG. I didn't expect it to be from Scout alone. Now EDG diving under the towers and finishing everyone off. It's a triple for Viper. You blink and you miss it here as the LGD health bars just evaporate.
And I don't understand. Xiaoshang, every time he TPs, it feels like he's just about to go into Mega. Times it perfectly, but beautiful execution from EDG. This game felt close in the early game, but as soon as EDG got that lead, they just completely blew it open, and now should just be able to close this one into a 1-0.
Beautiful stuff from EDG. An expected win, that is for sure, but I will say LGD doing a good job in the early game to show up and contest EDG. So while it is a 1-0 to EDG, and while it is a convincing victory for EDG, we're not out of sorts yet for LGD. I still have some faith that we can have a good second game here, and especially that early game. I was impressed by LGD trading across the map.
Yeah, I think they did a decent job. It just kind of hit the point where they fell really far behind. The team fighting from EDG was excellent. And especially considering we had that hiccup from them in that game 3 against Top Esports where there was some doubt thrown towards them. This showed, you know, returning to that level we expect in terms of the team fighting excellence. Constant 5 for O's, even when they were close in gold. Just the execution was so sharp. And I think the problem that sort of came, I was talking a bit about the composition for LGD. Zeri is that late game insurance. But when the rest of your team is losing relevance, right, and not posing threat, it just means that the enemy team can save tools for you. And the Nautilus ult just makes it so hard for it to play the game. The HEcarim can just remove you and just dive on you. And I think it just kind of hit critical mass so quickly. So, you know, going into game 2, I feel like they could change up the draft in this situation. It felt like, you know, they weren't really able to execute it as well as we'd hoped. But ultimately, you know, this wasn't a pure draft issue. This was very much EDG just being so dominant in those team fights.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, like, we saw in the early game, there were ways to play this draft from LGD, and it was very much a draft that you do need to snowball, right? So I don't actually inherently disagree with the draft from LGD, because I think against a team like EDG, realistically, you're not going to win those late game fights, even if you draft for that, right? I like that LGD were leaning into the fact that they want to scrap, they want to skirmish. But then fighting 5v5 for Herald, that's not a skirmish. That's just an early game team fight. So perhaps maybe the way that they were approaching the game needs to change as opposed to the draft.
For sure, because, I mean, you know, bot lane as well, losing the 2v2 at level 1, right? A little bit rough. And we obviously did see Eric come back into it. The team managed to funnel some resources into him, but Viper was so relevant throughout this game. You can see the damage difference between the two just absolutely stark. And I think that's the thing, you know, we've seen a lot of these lanes coming out from Viper and Meiko where they are looking to, you know, harass, poke down with things like the Ezreal Karma, showing they very much still how to play and still know how to play those kill lanes where they just crush you as soon as they get a chance.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the level 1 kill is just that's something else. That's an EDG special right there. We'll see if they can rinse and repeat in game number 2. But I think LGD have got more in the tank. I think we've got more coming after the break.